Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Today is the weekly Jupyter Frontends call, um, and this call is being recorded for YouTube, the Project Jupyter YouTube channel. So feel free to add any items to the agenda. There are currently a few. Um, so yeah, let's see. I will paste that once more for people who are just joining. So I think first up on the agenda is Mike.
So I just wanted to highlight that Jason uh, configured this experimental PR triage board based on what UV created, and you might see that on pull requests across JupyterLab. Sorry, I pasted the wrong link in the agenda. Let me fix that. Uh, you may see that pull requests get tagged and added to this board, which is automatically updated periodically by automation. So a bot is basically pulling all the PRs across JupyterLab repositories. So this includes even some archive repositories, which we might want to change, and documenting them with appropriate labels. Actually, let me share my screen. That might be easier. See if I can share. Yeah, so it is a bit large, but okay, so we can now see all the PRs from maintainers, first-time contributors, early contributors, and seasoned contributors. And there is also a dedicated column for bot PRs. I think the most important tab would be PRs with no maintainer engagement, which are by default sorted by the time when they were opened. So there is like a PR in uh, Jupyter AI, which did not have a maintainer engagement so far. I think that it might no longer be true because, yeah, just 2 minutes ago there was a comment and that was from a maintainer. So I think this is just because the bot did not update it yet. But otherwise, I find it very useful and I already like closed or merged some of the older PRs based on that. So thank you, Jason, for setting it up. Um, there are some improvements that we can make, but yeah, just wanted to explain like what is this thing that is showing up on people's PRs and encourage to using it. Uh, Also approved button merge. This is something that I was struggling with before because sometimes I would approve a PR and there's so many repos I'd forget to merge it. Go ahead, Jason.
Uh, yeah, thanks for bringing this up. And all the props here to UV. Like, this is pretty amazing. Essentially, he says a project board is essentially a database of extra fields you can add to any PR. So let's go and add a lot of intelligent fields to a PR, like has a maintainer approved this, has a maintainer engaged with this, is it a bot PR, etc. So it has a bunch of logic to add these fields, research these fields for each PR and then add them to the PR by putting a PR on a project board and adding these custom fields to it. Um, it's very much a work in progress. UV has something that's pretty valuable, I think, to start with here. So the point being that if there's interesting and useful information that you think should be tagged on a PR. If you were like, I wish I could find all the PRs that, for example, like UV has is documentation PRs, then if we can, do a GraphQL query to GitHub and find this information, we can tag it to the PR on a project board, and then you can manage and triage. Oh, Mike, you stopped sharing screen. I was gonna point out at least one other thing is that this is for all the PRs in the JupyterLab org, and we can, I think, pull from other orgs, but maybe the thing is we can also scope it down to a repo if you want. Yeah, if you go up to the query right here and click in there, and then type repository : and then you can exclude or include any number of repos that you want. So if you want to narrow down your scope, this is 208 PRs, I think, on this board. So you can just look at one particular repo if you want to scope down your triaging. And then finally, this is actually not automated update right now. UV has an action that updates it automatically on Jupyter Hub. Right now, this is updated when I manually run the npm script. But the next step is to automate this.
Oh, that's very useful to know. Sorry, I assumed that it was the same with automation on both sides.
Yeah, UV published instructions for getting his app up and running. He didn't publish instructions for the action, though I can see what he did for Jupyter Hub. Anyway, I got halfway there of setting up the board, but not the other half of setting up the workflow to automatically update it. I'm sorry?
I was going to say, if we still have time at the end of this meeting, we could actually go through some of these PRs and decide what to do with them. Especially like some of these are not trivial to close out or make a call in one person. So yeah, we could use some of the time for that, or we could continue prioritizing things for 4.5 release.
Yeah, I was thinking this might be valuable input for the triage meeting that happens yesterday. But then I looked at the notes and I realized the triage meeting is about triaging issues. Dan Rosio, you're often there at the triage meeting. Is that correct? In the triage meeting, you focus on issues rather than PRs?
Yeah, we try to go over issues that are labeled with the needs triage label, and we keep those around as we're asking questions and try to accept or close off that we can.
Excellent. Yeah. So again, as a reminder, this board is limited to PRs. We can set up another board for issues that, we have the needs triage issue, I think, label automatically added, which can be really helpful. But it may be helpful if we see the issues, if we add issues to this board as well, so you can see, is there a maintainer that's been active with this issue, or how long has it been since this issue has been interacted with, et cetera. So anyway, if you can think of like what are interesting, useful fields to add to issues, maybe even beyond PRs or with PRs and issues, we can expand the scope of this board to hopefully provide a little bit of automated triaging or dissecting of the issues beyond just a single label. That's it for me.
That's it from me too. I would like to mention some security work, and also, yeah. Oh, sorry. Actually, I will just mention that on the record for JupyterLab Desktop, there has been some engagement from the community, and now we have 2 people who previously were not active and now are reviewing and contributing. So I'm optimistic that maybe we will have a new JupyterLab Desktop release sometime soon. Right now, the status is that the automation for updating, synchronizing the JupyterLab version with JupyterLab Desktop, that is again up and running. I will highlight that previously it was running with like credentials of the previous maintainer. Now I set up a bot, a dedicated bot, which is scoped only to that repository and which opens PRs like this one, 907, and hopefully this will we can port more of the automation to using that bot in that repository and unblock releases. Although still like there is a lot of manual work that needs to be done verifying that the artifacts built actually work, because there is no like automated snapshot testing or anything on this repo.
Can I just ask a clarifying question around that? Have you had engagement with Mimit to help transition?
No, we we have not spoke about this recently.
Okay.
Other than some time ago in this meeting.
Mimit did express willingness to help somebody transition the desktop code base. That's exciting, though. That's awesome. Do you mind adding to the agenda whatever issue that conversation was happening in?
I can link to this pull request that I mentioned in the chat.
Cool.
Thanks, Mike. Up next is Jeremy.
Yeah, so there were two PRs that I wanted to bring up here. The first one is about explorations, trying to improve the scrolling issues in JupyterLab. So trying to fix them, I mean. And Miriam opened a draft PR currently using the content visibility approach that was discussed in multiple places before, and also in issues. The good thing is, I mean, for now, the diff is very small. So that looks really promising, but I'm bringing it up now to see if people would like to already, try testing it. I think she linked some example notebooks to it. And in the past few days, I think a couple of people were able to share more notebooks, with issues when it comes to scrolling. So I think a good step would be, next step, I mean, would be to maybe try it out and see how it behaves with large notebooks, and especially if it fixes the issues. And then maybe look into how we can merge that, as soon as possible. So I think the current approach is having a new mode, so it doesn't interfere with any other modes. And if we can have that in an alpha, maybe it's good enough for testing, as long as we are able to gather, feedback and people trying it in the alpha and beta. Hopefully, maybe we can. I don't know if we have time, or the possibility to make the change to one of the other modes and maybe switch to that. But that's still assuming that it works as expected and it's an improvement compared to the other modes. So yeah. So I think binder is a bit flaky currently, but maybe we'll be back soon. It'll be easier to test that, hopefully. Yeah. And the other PR. So if anyone wants to say anything about this PR, otherwise I can go to the next one and then we can discuss more later. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna mention that there was I think Miriam, yeah, linked did some comments where she shared some of the testing that she did as well. So I was going to try that out too.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, I think last week I also posted something on social media to ask like what are the biggest pain points for like users currently with Lab and Notebook, and the scrolling issues they keep coming. You know that it's probably like the top issue at the moment. So definitely on the radar for 4.5. Yeah. Okay. So otherwise, moving on. I started to look at this issue. So in the previous minor release of JupyterLab, we improved the code consoles quite a bit by being able to change the position of the prompt cell. So that it's not only in the bottom, it could be top, left, right, and bottom. But the side effect was that since we now use a split panel, if we put a lot of code in the cell, it doesn't automatically adjust its size. So I started to look into this in this PR, and I think this is now working a little bit better. So as expect, like the previous behavior, I mean. So if you paste like multi lines and then you clear it, then the prompt cell also shrinks down. If we move the cell with the code in it, it also keeps the height to fit the code. And there is also some logic in place to remember if a user manually drags the split handle, and if that's the case, clearing the input cell doesn't shrink it down, because maybe the user wanted to really have this kind of this layout there, and it would be a bit disruptive to try to compress it again. So yeah, I also wanted to bring that one up so folks could play around with it and check if the UX is better than what we have currently with 4.4. And I think it's the same. Hopefully the binder will work at some point, so it's easier to test. But yeah, I think that's all I had today.
Thanks, Jeremy. Up next, we have Jason.
Yeah, first, I just want to say, Jeremy, thank you so much for that LinkedIn post. It feels like we don't hear much from users because it takes a brave user to reach out to us. So it's fantastic when we reach out to them. I think people are eager to give feedback, and this seemed like pretty high quality feedback, actually. So, wow, success. Thank you for trying that experiment.
Yeah, there were quite a lot of comments actually, and I was also happy to see that people were complaining about things that are currently fixed for 4.5. So we're a little bit ahead of the curve.
That's
yeah.
awesome. Yes. I was curious if anybody had planned on submitting for a Jupyter Community Workshop proposal. The CFP's been open for a few weeks now and closes September 7th, which I think is a week and a half away. We anticipate, so speaking with my Jupyter Community Building hat on, and Rosie is also a member of the Community Building Committee, we're anticipating funding around 3 proposals, and a proposal can ask for a budget of up to 20K to reimburse travel and venue and food and things like that. And it's a great opportunity, at least it has been in the past, for people to get together and work on some high impact strategic work. This time we're scoping the proposals down to contributors. In the past, we had a much broader call for proposals for, you know, user groups and whatnot. But this time we're scoping it down to contributors. So the people in this room are particularly the audience that we're looking for submitting proposals and for getting together at a workshop. I think there's been some discussion, Jeremy, you brought it up a little while ago. Is there anybody actively working on a proposal that you know of, or one of you?
Yeah, I was going to maybe start a thread on Zulip to start one about Jupyter AI. I think that would be. I think we discussed that during the Jupyter AI call, maybe
Awesome.
2 weeks ago or so. I think that would be great to have one there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's the easiest would be to start a thread or maybe an issue, and then have a HackMD somewhere, and hopefully we can submit it before September 7th if it's the deadline.
Yeah. Yeah, like a proposal around what's the AI story, even maybe broader than Jupyter AI, like what's the AI story, and we can pull in people, or however you want to scope that that you feel is the most impactful and can move the needle on things. I think that sounds excellent. Is there any Jupyter front? I mean, Jupyter AI sort of involves a lot of Jupyter front end folks and things. Anybody else? Okay. Thanks, Jeremy, very much. If you want to put in a proposal for a Jupyter front ends get together, let's figure out this content visibility, you know, or let's figure out what are the like 3 main things we want to work on in the next 6 months, and then make progress towards those. Or if there's other, you know, huge pain points that are sticky, or maybe we get together with a couple other projects and share and work on our CI/CD and release pipeline. Or, I mean, there's lots of things that we can tackle in these sorts of workshops.
Yeah, actually, there could be like, so we've been talking about this for a long time. Like all of the build tools for JupyterLab currently are, I mean, they work, but they could be better. So that means like extracting some of the build tools to a separate package, trying to, you know, isolate this part so that they are more reusable, more easily reusable by other, for example, lab-based applications. There is the switch to RSpec potentially, and all of this, I mean, all of this theme is really for maintainers, right, and contributors. Like we don't expect extension authors to, or I mean, they can, but it's maybe not the most fun part of JupyterLab, right? So it could be a good way to get together and get some work done on this track. But yeah, and it's also how to fund, like, and also put time on that, because you can go, you know, very deep on like things, and then it usually takes a lot of time to achieve like this big refactoring. So yeah.
That's true. That's something that these workshops seem to help a lot with, is if you have a hard time slicing out time from whatever your responsibilities are to work on this project that is important, but it's never like urgent, to carve out some time to get in a room together with all the other people that can like really push forward this and have that time sliced out, you know, 3 to 4 days or whatever, and making progress on it. That's where I think we gain a lot of value in these workshops. Even if you don't want to organize a workshop, can we take 5 minutes or 3 minutes and brainstorm? What is a workshop that you think would be valuable to have? Whether or not, say, you have capacity to organize a workshop or time to organize a workshop, what do you think would be a very valuable workshop? Like what Jeremy was just suggesting around build tools, for example.
Yeah, I would say, like Jeremy said, workshops on key features and especially UI UX. Also, I think like accessibility, right, is something we always want to work on, but not always have time to work on. So maybe this is something that could be nice. But essentially, for Jupyter Frontends, right, For example, in 4.5, we have some priorities we identified as a group. In a similar manner, we could identify as a group, take those priorities or identify different priorities that a group of people or a couple of different groups of people, right, in different geographies could work on, and just kind of work on them together. That's how I was potentially thinking about it. Also, it seems like 20,000 is a really good amount of money for like organization of local kind of state level or country level in Europe level events. So yeah, I hope someone will step up for the organization. That would be awesome.
On the accessibility workshop, what would you think would be awesome as goals for an accessibility workshop, Andre?
I think there should be even an issue with a list of accessibility features that are not that are pending, right, as a result of the accessibility audits. So I think those could be like a good first step. I mean, we can always ask Tony, I guess, if he's available. He will advise us. I'm sure, just from top of his mind. Yes.
If there's budget for it, getting some experts, users with accessibility needs in the room with us who could sort of do trainings or demonstrate for us how they use the platform and what issues they run into, and help us develop a list of issues to then work on could be really great too.
Yeah, a few years ago, I went to a workshop at the Lighthouse Institute in San Francisco where they did exactly that. They got together users that were blind, people that worked on the ARIA spec, and a few Jupyter people. And the goal of the workshop was, to work on some ambitious problems. We only had a few days. And I think, some very interesting experiments came out of that. But the biggest life-changing thing for me was developing an empathy for the problem and realizing that like how I thought about the problem was like totally not the important things to think about in the problem. Instead, it was this class of things that really were problems for a blind user to use Jupyter. And so even getting experts in the room to help developers develop empathy for the problem and understand the scope of solutions for the problem was just mind-blowing, perspective resetting, things like that. Any other workshop ideas?
Have building extensions been mentioned already?
No. What would you see as a successful workshop in building extensions?
So I'm not sure about the format, but it's one of the three core strengths, even at JupyterCon, right? Like new features, accessibility, which is often neglected, unfortunately, and then kind of trying to onboard new users, or rather developers. And in this case, if we talk about developers, it's building extensions. And I'm not sure which format works. Maybe people who went to JupyterCon building extensions workshops, might chime in with actual experience. I could see it as so. Is it open to public, or is it only like Jupyter Core contributors? Because if it's open to public, it could be like just Jupyter Core contributors. For example, if in the Bay Area, I could be available, maybe someone else as well. And we could just be open to public to kind of advise them on how one could build an extension, and maybe help them to start on it. Like do a setup with it's usually the hardest just to do the setup and figure out how to start actually like putting the code into some functional elements when it shows up on the screen, right? So yeah. But I again, people who actually did workshops for building extensions at JupyterCon, I would imagine would have more expertise.
Yeah, as written, the proposal is targeted towards current or aspiring Jupyter contributors. And so I could see two aspects to a workshop like that. One aspect would be us building out the tooling around extensions. I was talking to somebody developing extensions the other day. I think he came by last week. Carl Koster, I think was his name, from PEMCO. And it came up in the conversation that there's documentation, but it's really not very much not enough documentation to handhold somebody through it. And there's the examples repo, which is tremendously useful, but it's like really complicated. And so like there's a gap there, he felt, in materials to help somebody develop extensions. There's also the plugin playground that could use some love and exploration. There's actually working with users. So it feels like there's a lot we can do as contributors to put things in order around helping people with developing extensions, and then aspiring Jupyter contributors. So yeah, sure, inviting some people in to work on their work on their extensions, but also help us understand where the gaps and the pain points are.
Yeah, I agree. Even as with some experience, it still can be hard to figure out the like copier and everything else. Most definitely. And if someone would be organizing something in the Bay Area or in California, even I can be available as a resource for a workshop like that for sure. So yeah.
Awesome. This is a great. Oh, Ely.
Sorry. So very sorry. For a documentation workshop, to echo myself earlier, I think bringing in some copywriters and some UX folks who are very comfortable writing documentation and like picking apart documentation to see what's going to trip up newer users could really help those workshops be more effective, and also perhaps take some of the writing burden off of anyone who doesn't enjoy writing that much.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, we have a documentation work group, though I'm not sure how active it is right now. I think Eric Gentry was really pushing forward on that group, and he, for various reasons, has not been as active in Jupyter right now. Is
Same for
anybody
Jason.
here?
Same from Jason from our team.
Oh, yeah.
Active. He was active on that, but he's also he is not on our team anymore. So
Yeah.
he kind of semi-retired. So
Are there people on the documentation working group? That's sort of meta Jupyter level documentation, but obviously there's also front ends documentation.
Understanding it's kind of dead right now.
Okay. So getting people together in a room to inject some energy into either the effort on Jupyter wide documentation or front ends documentation. Yeah, excellent. Again, these workshops I think are excellent places to carve out time on these things that we want to make progress on, but we individually never quite find the time to, for whatever reason. Carving out that time helps us to really make a impactful push on these issues. Yeah, thanks, Ely. Okay. I'll take this list and post it somewhere visible. And the idea here is if somebody has the capacity to organize a workshop but isn't quite sure what would be valuable to organize a workshop around, and connect them with a list of brainstorm ideas of what would be really valuable workshops, then we can see some fruit from that sort of collaboration. I'll post this list somewhere where it'd be valuable to post it, probably as an issue or PR, and then advertise it on Zulip, etc., to try to connect people that have capacity to organize a workshop but don't have but want some ideas, and this excellent list of ideas. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for coordinating, Jason.
back over to you, Rocio.
Thanks, Susan. I think Mike had to drop, but he did mention one issue, and so I will share the link to the issue here in Zoom chat. It is Galata update workflows will break soon as author association field will be removed, and Mike lists a blog post announcing that change and the timeline of that change and kind of a potential action plan I'm seeing here. So if anyone wants to take a look there, I think this one's going to be quite important across probably multiple Jupyter repos that have some workflows. Like they're actually, he points out that it's just a lot of update workflow in this case. So maybe it would be an issue for additional repos across Jupyter, depending on how they are written. Yeah. So
this
sorry.
how is this author association field being used?
It's being used in the Galata update workflow. I'm guessing that is to kind of let's see. If I take a look. It grabs the author association and pull requests. I think it's useful in the workflow where you can update the Galata snapshots when you're making changes in the PR. I'm not sure if honestly if it's being used to. I think anyone could really call the bot, but I might be wrong. So maybe that's what it's used for. But I'd have to take a closer look.
So it's for permissioning, essentially, like
I believe
gating
so, yeah.
access to it. The reason why I bring this up is this looks very similar to, a field added by this new project board, which is, again, a way to assign custom data to a PR through a project board that, maintains that custom data outside of the actual PR. But I wonder if maybe I'm not sure what this data is being used for. So if it's used, if there's a way to access the project board, and we can, develop some rule that adds this data to the issue or PR, as it's just when it's associated to the project board, it may be that we can just switch over to using our custom information.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's author association. So either an owner, collaborator, and member of the I'm guessing the organization.
Yeah, I'm looking at the code as well. I think you're right. It looks like it's a gate for being able to update the Galata snapshots. Yeah, so it may be that we can just, but maybe that doesn't come in on the GitHub event. Maybe there's some way to query the board for this information in order to keep this workflow, if we think this workflow is valuable to have around.
Well, I think that may be an interesting kind of so potential solution. I think the one that the solution that Mike mentions is moving to the to use the REST API, because that detail will still be available via the REST API.
Ah, that's much simpler. Yeah. Okay, I hadn't read this issue thoroughly, I guess. Yeah, I see. It's still okay. That's much easier probably than querying the project board. Is just inserting one more thing that checks the REST API for this thing.
Another part of that Mike's proposed solution is also interesting, is like to make a custom GitHub action so that it later that is not a problem across multiple Jupyter repos and you have to go in and fix them. I think I really like that.
Yeah, that sounds like a prerequisite for this. It sounds like it's hard coded right now across 100 repos. And
right.
it would
Oh,
be
yeah,
much
you did
better
mention that
if there
last
was
time,
one
so-
GitHub action that everyone used that we could just essentially update.
Mm.
The timeline looks like October 7th. So actually really coming up soon.
It's, I guess maybe Mike wanted. I'm not sure if you wanted to highlight this issue, or if you had any other additional comments. But yeah, I just wanted, just good to go over that. And then if no one has anything else to go on the record, we can stop the recording and we might have some additional points off the record that we can talk over. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. Please stick around for the off the record portion. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.